Bombing, episode 36.
All right, first off, cheers, folks.
Cheers.
I'm glad we put this together.
Yeah, me too.
Very excited.
Finally, we got that audio figured out.
Yeah.
It's worked 35 times.
Yeah.
Episode 36 decides to not work.
Yeah, for some reason.
Well, that's the lucky number.
Yeah.
Everyone in the Bombing Podcast family, please welcome to the podcast, Elise.
Woo!
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Welcome. This is a Bombing. This is a comedy podcast where we talk about stand-up comedy, and we share stories from doing stand-up in Los Angeles. We're all comedians, and we bomb a lot most of the time.
Sometimes, mostly on stage.
Yeah, like
sometimes
80
in real life.
80% of the time, I'd say we bomb. Mm-hmm. And here's the podcast where we talk about that.
Yeah. We ran into Elise at an open mic that us and a lot of our compatriots frequent, Badger and Jam in West Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
B&J, dude.
Yeah.
Best mic in town.
Hell
Best
yeah.
mic in town. We praised them multiple times on this podcast.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
How do you not?
Yeah. Very, very cool spot. We'll be there tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That Wednesday night.
And
Absolutely.
Tom Kelly hosting.
Yep. So we'll show up 15 minutes late and it'll be all right.
Didn't you say that Badger and Jam, wasn't that the first place you ever went on?
It was the first place I ever went on. For a while, it was the only place I was going on. It's one of those things where it was so hard for me to get into it because I was so nervous about it that I wanted to get comfortable somewhere. And then lately I've been venturing out more. My schedule just got insane because I have a couple other gigs going on. But when I can, when you have the time and the money, you go out and do it.
Yeah. How'd you find out about Badger and Jam?
So I used to work at David's Bridal. My last day was yesterday, so I don't work there anymore.
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And for a while, there was another local LA comedian named Shantanette Morgan, who was another receptionist. She is a very great comedian. She does a lot over at the Comedy Chateau. She's started producing lately, from what I've seen. She's killer. And she was the first person who was like, "You should really do this. This is how I did it." She had this incredible story of was it Flappers or the store? She was at some big comedy club, and literally David Spade walks into the room and thinks she's someone he knows, and so he's talking to her, and he's like, "You're going up tonight, right?" And she's like, "Yeah," because she's never done comedy. But when David Spade tells you you're gonna go on stage, you're gonna go on stage.
Yeah, you just go up.
Yeah.
And first time ever trying it, she nailed it, and she just kept going.
Hell yeah.
And she kept telling me you should do this, and I was really chicken shit about it. And she told me about Comedy Cult, and she's like, that shows you all the mics in LA, where they are, what time, how much they cost, all that jazz. And one day I got on, I saw Badger and Jam, and I was like, and I don't know why that was the one I picked, but I was like, I'm just gonna go. And I did a Wednesday night mic at 7.
Was Tom there?
It was Tom's night. I did what I thought was a 5-minute set because I was timing it out in my apartment a monologue because I'm a stupid theater kid and had no idea how stand-up worked.
I did the same thing.
Right?
I walked around
in front of the mirror, and you're like, all right, here, I pause here, and then they laugh here.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't do it in front of the mirror. I couldn't face myself.
Yeah, no.
I was just looking at the floor,
Can
walking
I tell you
around.
what I did? I put all my stuffed animals on the couch.
Yeah.
I did it to all of them.
It's like an audience. Hell
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, my God.
But I was I timed it out. I'm like, this is going to be a good tight 5. And then I went up and I sped through it in 2:30.
Oh.
I was like, well, that was my time. And Tom was like, I'm going to see you back here. You're funny. And I'm like, okay. So the next week I went back and I did all 3 slots. And I had a different set for each slot.
Nice.
And only one really went okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other 2 just bombed. But that was the first night I ever went to the Comedy Store with Tom. And
Was it right after?
Yeah, right
your
after.
first? Wow.
It was with Tom, and then I believe, if I remember correctly, Sasha Hors d'oeuvre, who's moved back to Canada temporarily.
yeah.
Another great comedian.
He's back in communist land now for some. We
know.
got to get him back to the States.
to get educated.
Yeah, come on,
Blech.
man.
Ooh, I want to be smart.
Yeah, drop out of your nerd college. Come back to Southern California,
Math.
dude.
Yeah.
He's learning about fucking math when
Yeah.
he could be here writing jokes.
Had you ever been to the Comedy Store before that
No,
night? So that was your
no.
first time. Did
That was my
you
first time
know
ever.
about it at all?
No, it never really crossed my mind. So comedy for me, when I grew up watching comedy, this is gonna rock everyone's brains. I don't know if either of you know this. I grew up on the Blue Collar Comedy Gang.
Yeah.
Jeff Foxworthy, Bill Engvall, Larry the
Yeah,
Cable Guy,
yeah.
Ron White. They were our religion in our house.
Our dad,
Oh,
our
yeah.
dad liked them a lot.
Oh yeah, and I was like a 3rd, 4th grader writing shit for school. Like, I'm gonna be a comedian and go on tour with these people, and my
Yeah.
teacher would be like calling my mom like, "Do you want to put her in a sport or something?" You know, like there's a couple art clubs.
So that was like the first introduction to like what stand-up was the Blue Collar Comedy Tour?
I mean, my first real introduction was Bill Cosby, but I don't
Yeah.
like to lead with that.
Yeah.
Because that's a rough thing to lead with these days.
Yeah.
But he was a bit, them, Bill Cosby, John Panette was a big one growing up. I loved him. Rita Rutner, Ellen DeGeneres, Frank Caliendo.
I heard she's nice.
I've heard otherwise.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure she's nice.
yeah, and it was one of those things where I always loved comedy. I always thought it would be something I could do. I ended up majoring in musical theater in college, and
Nerd.
I know. Because I knew I could act and I knew I could sing, and I was like, I might as well just major in it so I could like get best of both. And by the time I ended, I hated musical theater.
Yeah.
I hated the idea of like going to New York, and I wasn't even crazy about the idea of auditioning for TV in LA and things like that, because by the end they very much focus on like, this is your type, this is how we'll market you, this is what your manager will sell you as, and I'm like, I would like to be me
Yeah.
and sell me and be my own boss. And they're like, well, you're not going to do that here in this city being an actor. And I'm like, well,
Where was that city? Where were you when this was all going on?
I was going to AMDA, which is a college actually right down the road by Capitol Records. It is a
Okay.
performing arts college. It is currently like #2 top represented on Broadway.
Dang.
So it's a good fucking school. Like, I didn't like get a hack education, but
you gave it all up to do stand-up at Badger and Jam.
I wanted to be the boss of my own image.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want
Yeah.
to be sold as a character. I wanted to be sold as a person.
Yeah.
And the number one thing that held me back from stand-up was the idea of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I took the idea of writing so literally, like MLA format, high school, you know, it has to have grammar and punctuation to be correct. And it's like, no, you can just jot 4 words on a napkin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember the rest of the monologue that goes with it, and then kill. And
Yeah.
like, that's writing for some comedians.
You can just take a thought and go up on stage and think it out live. It's neat.
And Chantanette was the first person who really taught me that, because she was like, I don't write. I audio record into my phone, and then I jot them down later, and then, you know, things like that. And I don't know anyone who really, like, writes down full-fledged, like...
He writes.
Dude, I type. I'll write like a bit out. Like normally it's just I'll write like the Queen pooping and slipping in it or something like that. And then I'll sit down and I'm like, I'll type it out, and it'll be all right. That's like kind of the points I want to hit.
Yeah.
And then when I go with like the tiny notebook on stage, I'll just be like, when the Queen shit herself or whatever,
Yeah.
and then just kind of like riff on it
Yeah.
there.
And I do that too, but like, when I'm writing out the joke, I don't think I ever go up and do it verbatim word for word every time.
No.
No, because you can't.
I
You
That's-
do.
started-
I
that's
write like an
impossible.
initial monologue for it, and then I kind of remember it, but as time evolves,
Yeah.
it rolls into something new every time.
I sat down and like writ out every word by word one time. I went up on stage and just bailed on it all.
Yeah.
And it worked better just because I was more authentic.
Pause right here. They're gonna laugh here. Just make sure.
Yeah,
you
just pause.
Yeah, just
Right.
pause.
Pause, do a little wave.
Yeah.
And
do a little nod.
I
This is
never-
gonna kill.
I never went back to writing.
Silence.
I'll
Yeah.
I'll have an idea, and I'll jot the idea down, and like I'll remember how I came up with it and why I thought it was funny, and then I'll always start my jokes with like, I'll bring it up, and then I'll be like, I thought that was funny because of this,
Yep.
and then just go down that road and see where that takes
Very
us.
that. I mean, I talk to myself so much.
Yeah, so do
Oh
I.
yeah.
If I talk myself into a joke, if I just write down like the main 5 words of like, you know, giant chicken woman, usually I'm repeating that joke enough to myself to where I just like, you know, oh, I know exactly what that means. I
Yeah.
will now go into that
Yeah.
joke, you know. Most of my like 9 times out of 10, when I go to Badger and Jam, I'll think of like 5 jokes I want to do. Usually I'll do like 1 or 2 new ones. I'll try to save room for riffs, and then I'll do like a couple of classics just to end it off. But I'll write down like 3 words for each on 1 sheet of paper.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be flipping all through my book of like, where's that one joke?
That's the worst. That's the worst.
Dude, peeve. Pause. Peeve. Open mic peeve. The guy that's like, oh, I'm on the right page in my notes.
Yeah.
It's like you didn't
Or-
come
Or
prepared.
the guy who's like,
Or the phone. Yeah, the
let's
phone.
see, dude. Phone is. That's why I always go up with like pen and paper.
Yeah.
because it's like you have that.
Yep.
You have like 5 like sentences or like words written out, and you're like, that's what I'm doing tonight.
We even have like tiny notebooks. Like our
Oh, yeah.
our notebooks
Yeah.
are tiny, and it's just like a few words.
well, that's why I like having the notebook that has the little stupid ribbon glued in, because
Mm-hmm.
then I can like bookmark like this is exactly
Where
like,
I bombed.
These are the spaces that
Yeah.
I use, and you don't go beyond here.
Yeah.
You know.
I can't stand. Okay, what else? Let me just let me just.
We know a couple of
hold
people
on.
who do that, and
Yeah.
I love them to death. But it's
But
just like,
come on,
bro.
get up to speed.
Or or like they'll do the phone and they'll put it back in their pocket and,
And
then
then take
they'll
it back
take
out.
it
Do
back
another one,
out.
take it back. It's like put it on the stool.
Yeah,
It's there for a
password,
reason.
password, and then it's in my other folder. Sorry.
Dude, you know what they're doing? They're making it too complicated. They're going from like the swipe to the chip to the tap thing.
Yeah.
It's like you could just write it down.
That's right.
Instead of just being like, well,
This is like
Yeah.
cash, cold hard cash,
Yeah,
baby.
this is paper's cash.
Never fails.
Never fails. I never once have I looked at what I wrote down and was like, hold on, where is all? I
Right?
can't find what I'm looking for. Like,
Yeah.
you got to come up prepared. That's a peeve of ours, is
Mm-hmm.
not being prepared for open mics.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And if you're like, even if you don't necessarily have like a set up,
Mm-hmm.
you should be someone who has enough material that you know that you could just go up and start pulling it out of pocket.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
we've got a buddy, Casey Skinnerd.
Yeah,
I don't think Casey Skinner has ever gone up with an actual set in mind.
either, no.
He's
don't
gone
think-
up with maybe 1 or 2 bits he wants to do, but
That's so
9 times
funny.
out of 10 he just goes up and talks, and he just
He is
pulls-
funny, though.
Yeah,
It's funny,
he's
but
Very funny.
I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, there's a few people who I like and who are funny, but I don't know like a bit of theirs.
Oh yeah.
Like Tom's always funny, but I don't know like, oh, you got to hear Tom's bit about this. I have no idea what Tom's jokes are.
I didn't see
Oh,
Tom
yeah.
do material until the All Day Polly J show
Yep.
in Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
and he killed it, dude.
Oh,
he
yeah.
did so well.
Like I know Tony has like a lot of bits about doors.
Yeah, doors.
Oh,
and,
Samuel Orson is the king of bits.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
nothing
yeah.
but bits.
yeah.
You
And
know?
then, but like yeah, there's a few people where I'm like, they're always funny, but I don't know like, oh, I love his bit about this. I don't know.
I think Hayden Ezzy's a great example. I think he maybe has one joke I've heard him tell twice.
Easy. That's
Easy.
my rival out there. No.
The opposite.
But
Hayden.
like he's one of those people. He just kind of gets on stage and like whether he opens or closes, he just talks about the day.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, he gets like a solid number of laughs.
I know him. He had a joke about what was it, a kumquat or a squash? Eating it.
He has this great joke about my 8-year-old friend got killed by a train, and I'm scared to meet him in heaven because it's gonna be awkward because like I've grown past
Oh yeah,
that bit of
yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't want to play dodgeball anymore. I want to go fuck
Yeah.
bitches.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're 8. That's not
Yeah.
my problem.
I want to go hit on
good.
chicks, dude. Let's
Yeah,
go.
that's such a good joke.
Yeah.
My jokes are always super short. I feel like all my jokes. I can wrap up any of my jokes in like a minute and a half.
That's one of the biggest like walls I've been running into recently. Is that, like I'll have this idea and I'll be like, it's funny because of this, and then all right, next time, and it's like a minute. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I'm trying to like get better at expanding ideas a little bit.
I've got like for me, I feel like I either have like really expanded ideas or one-liners, and I don't have like much of an in-between spot.
I have no one-liners.
Yeah.
I don't think in one-liners. I think in like a minute and a half chunks.
Ryan is notorious for running the light.
I always run.
Ryan ran the light
a
at the
lot.
Comedy Store the first
I
time
did.
he went on.
Yes. I
Yeah,
heard
you're
about
only, you're
this.
only allowed 3 minutes, and I did 4.5. I was.
It was a fantastic 4.5. By
Oh
the way.
yeah,
best set I've ever done. I think
Yeah.
one of them.
that's great.
But I ran. You know what? My very first time on stage. You said you did well, right?
You were there, yeah. So I
was
hope I
there?
did well. The first, oh no,
Your first time ever?
oh my first time in an open mic.
Yeah.
I did fine.
Yeah.
I did fine.
I crushed my first time. I don't know why. I've always told people this. I crushed my first time. It was like my second and third and maybe even fourth time where I ate it.
Dude, I thought I did well my first time because I record all my sets, and then a couple weeks ago, I went back and listened to it, and I was like, I want to jump off a bridge. This is,
Yeah, looking
this
back
is
at
awful.
it now.
What? Yeah.
Right.
I had my first set timed out so perfectly that once I was done, I said, what'd I say? I was like, good night, everybody. And then I pointed at the guy with the buzzer, with the timer.
Mm-hmm.
I pointed, and it went ding, and I have it on recording.
Nice.
I was like, good night, everybody, and I did like that, and it was like perfect timing. That's how many times I practiced that fucking first set.
You had it down.
It was crucial, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And I had some buddies there, which made it even more heightened.
Oh yeah.
That leads into something else. You ever have? Do you ever have friends that are like, you tell them you're like, yeah, I do stand up. That's like my thing. That's why I'm out here in LA. And they're like, oh, dude, I'd love to I'd love to go do stand up. Hey, I should go to one of your open mic. I could go on, and then you're like, all right, fine. That's fine. And then a couple days go by, a couple more days go by, and then it's like, it's like the night of, and you're like, hey, do you still want to go on? They're like,
Oh, I'm busy.
nah, dude, no, dude. And they always bail out.
Yeah.
I don't have that friend, but I have a very dear friend. God, if you end up watching this podcast, I love you very dearly. I hope you know that.
One of 90.
He when I first met him, he told me that he used to do stand-up, used to do comedy. He did 3 shows. The first 2, and it was one of those where he did it on a whim and he killed. Mm-hmm. So someone invited him back and he killed again. And then the 3rd time he went up, he bombed. And he was like, and I never went on stage again.
Yeah.
And I'm really close with him, so I know why, and I get it, because I've been that person too.
Yeah.
But that's something, for me personally, I know how easy it is for me to be that person, so I actively fight really hard. When I bomb, when I have a joke that doesn't do well, when I have a set that doesn't do well, it's like, you're gonna come back next week,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not, and you're gonna keep doing this.
Yeah.
Because everyone bombed.
No, the worst part about bombing is you're like, I don't even want to show my face there anymore.
Yeah.
I don't even want to be alive.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
want to go to the grocery store. The people at the store know I bombed. It's horrible.
Because he was one of these guys who he would go up and tell very personal life stories in a funny way. So when he bombed, he was like, it felt like they hated me when they didn't like my jokes. And I'm like, that is, oh my, preach to the choir. Preach to the comedian fucking choir.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of the art. To a point we're exaggerating ourselves, but we're presenting ourselves on stage. This is one of the most authentic art forms there is. So when people don't like it, it's like,
You don't like me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I suffered from that in theater school. So and honestly, I think going through that in theater school and now doing stand-up makes it so much easier to get over bombing. Because I know it's like, just it's you, not them. Grow up,
Yeah.
That sounds a little more healthy than how I do it.
Yeah, look, I totally get when I go on stage and talk about dumping so hard my nose bleeds, and then they don't like it. I'm like, am I a bad person?
This is my truth.
Yeah, I'm trying to speak my truth.
Yeah.
I dumped so hard once that I had a bloody nose, and you guys don't want to hear that.
That means you hate me.
I mean, it's demoralizing.
That leads into a question I had, because bombing is the worst feeling I think I've ever felt. Mm-hmm. You ever had a bad bomb where you're just like, afterwards, you're walking to the car and people aren't talking to you.
Yeah.
And you're just it's like you're in a daze. It's like the worst feeling. So what's something that what do you think drives you? What keeps you going? Keeps you coming back? What's that thing in the back of your head where you're like, no, this is the answer, and I have to be a comedian. This is the thing.
I think for me, part of it is I've made it a part of my routine.
Yeah.
The Wednesday night, weekly, we go to Badger and we go to the store.
Yes.
We do comedy and then we go be surrounded by comedians in a space, getting that weekly refresher of if you work hard enough and if you work with the right people and if you, do this right, you could be here
Yeah.
doing this, you know, having, you know, mozzarella sticks with Bobby Lee.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could be here. You could be the person who all the stupid little open micers like us look at and go,
oh my God, it's
Oh my God,
him.
Dude, how many times has that happened in real life where we're
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
holy
how many
shit,
times are we-
that's
oh my God.
you know.
Oh, the podcast needs to know. Like 2 weeks ago, I was at the Comedy Store with Tom Kelly, Luke Walls, friends of the podcast, and Tom Kelly was like, "That's Eliza Schlersinger," pointing at a blonde woman, and I went, "I don't believe you, but okay, let's go take a picture." And Luke Walls is like, "I'm not going with you," and we take a picture and we come back, and Luke is like, "That was Annie Letterman." So, like, I want to be that. I want to be that woman that everyone mistakes for Whitney Cummings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there you go, there
I
you
want
go.
to be.
You want to
That's,
be mistakes for a good comedian.
oh yeah, that's the
do I.
dream.
Oh, dude,
man.
yeah, because it's so nice going to the store every Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice hanging out there and being there and being like, you know, we're not that far away. I mean, it's a long
Mm-hmm.
road full, and we have no idea what it looks like. But it's like,
it's pretty far away.
but
Yeah.
we're like, oh, but it's right there though.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like right there.
Because I feel like in LA, so many people not just aspire for art, but specifically aspire for like fame. And that's something, you know, especially once you like get into it, a lot of people like tell you to strive for that. And for me, it's like, when I think of the fame like a TV star gets or a movie star gets, it's like, that's too much. You know,
Yeah.
I still want to be able to be a person and have a life. But if I could go to a place like the Comedy Store and have people like freak out that I'm there,
Yeah.
and have people like try to sneak into the main room to see my shit and get kicked
and
out,
get kicked out and get kicked
and
out.
get kicked out
Yeah.
from trying
Guilty.
to see me, all of us, you know, that's worth its weight in gold.
I look to
Yeah.
Bill Burr a lot for when he talks about success and stuff. You could probably say it better than I do, but I think Bill Burr does fame like perfectly. He was like, you don't want to be too famous. Like, you just want to be just enough famous to where like you can do your shit, and I can always go to stand up and I'll just pop into like, I'll pop
yeah.
into a movie, I'll pop into a thing, and like he'll go around places and not be recognized, but if you know who he is, you're like,
Oh, yeah.
holy shit.
Like, if I want to be able to walk into a Walgreens shit-faced buying stuffed animals
Yeah.
and not have a million people taking pictures of me to put on Twitter,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, maybe one person will be like, "Hi, I love your work," and it's like, "Hi, I'm not in the
I'm
space
blackout.
to meet you."
I'm
yeah.
blackout.
Well, thank you for liking me, you know?
Buying cigarettes.
That's all I need.
My bar is tremendously lower than that.
Yeah.
It's like all I want to do is get good enough at stand up that I don't need a day job.
That's the tea.
Anything past that is like heaven.
Oh, yeah.
But if I could like if I could get, you know, successful enough that I could do like road gigs and then pay for my apartment
Mm-hmm.
by talking about my dick and asshole.
Yeah.
Like then
Right? Yeah.
That's the freest they'll ever let you be, dude.
do you strive for more than? Do you strive for past that?
I'm not even planning past that.
No?
No. Game plan is quitting the day job.
That is a good game plan.
Game plan is my rent is paid because I went and talked about my dick in Denver
Yeah.
and like 6 other cities, and I still came out at the end of like whatever the run was,
Yeah.
like on top or even.
Yeah.
Makes
That's
sense.
I've never not been in a position where like my day job didn't like pay for all my things.
Yeah.
And it would be awesome for something that you liked and enjoyed doing. Like how awesome would it feel if they were like, "Hey, rent's due," and you're like, "Here it is. I didn't have to work at this place that I don't want
yeah.
to work at," you know?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate. And then after, like once that is achieved, then you can start planning past that as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah.
But like that's the ultimate like end goal is like getting out of the matrix, dude.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah.
gotta
Hey.
get out.
I get to go to Tacoma, Washington, and talk about how weird birds are, and you're telling me they'll give me enough money that I can pay rent in LA?
Yeah.
That's the freest you'll ever be, dude.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's real.
Yeah.
That's really real.
That's my only real end game there.
Yeah, do you guys have that thing in the back of your head that tells you like this has to work out, like there's no other options? I wake up, that's all I think about. All I think about is like dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And then like something has to work out because I can't just go back to Tennessee and
Oh, yeah.
cut trees or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. I have to be a comedian. I have to.
I'll tell you what, my dad and his wife are retiring in the next few years back to Ohio. They're building like a custom house on a plot of land in Norwalk. And there is nothing more motivating to get me to a like independent, successful place in LA than my father moving back to Ohio. Because like if I had to move back home with him in San Diego, like I wouldn't like that, but I could still like perform, do comedy. I'm in California, I'll live. If I have to move to fucking Norwalk, Ohio, because I'm not funny enough to live here, I'm not gonna make it to Ohio. I'm gonna make it to the train tracks and lie down and take a nap and never wake up. Oh my God, you know, and that's not to shit on Ohio. It's beautiful, and I love to visit.
But you don't want to live there and not do stand-up.
No, the people. To be fair, Ohio doesn't want me there. When I visit Ohio, people look at me like you're not supposed to be here, and I look at them and go, I agree with you. Yeah. You know, I'm here for a week. You can live with me. And then when I leave, I bet they throw the biggest party they've ever seen. You know.
Yeah. So moving back home, that's a big driver for you.
It really is, because I'll tell you what.
The fear of that.
It is, because when I was in college, I was really on the path to like the second I graduate, I'm just gonna get an apartment in LA and I'm gonna start doing the LA thing. And I had a plan like I was gonna do this with like, you know, all these people, and it didn't end up happening. I ended up moving back to San Diego. And I didn't like it. I hated being back in San Diego. It felt
How did
like,
that feel after like trying and then failing, and you're like back in San Diego and you're like, I think I just failed.
Exactly. It was like I had a whole bachelor's degree from a prestigious performing arts school in the performing arts capital, one of them on the globe, but I was back in the same city I went to high school in the same house I went to high school in. And my dad the whole time was like, Elise, you're not failing. You just graduated college and you are like 22, 23 years old. You're not failing in the slightest. But I was like, I don't want to be here, Dad. Yeah. The people here are pregnant and balding. Like, I don't want to be here. Yeah. And it got to a point where I was doing... I booked one musical out of college. I did a production of Matilda at Coronado Playhouse, which was probably a horrible choice. Not because it wasn't a great show. It was a lovely show with lovely people. But having my first show out of college be with children immediately brought me back to doing shows in high school with children. And it was like, it felt like I was going backwards.
That makes sense.
And there was one day where someone I went to college with posted that they booked something. And I just had a whole meltdown in my backyard of like, I'm failing, I'm miserable, I'm behind. And my dad finally looked at me and he was like, I either pay for you to exist in my house or I pay for you to exist somewhere else. Yeah. And if you need to be somewhere else, I don't think it's going to cost any different than me having to feed and house you here. Yeah. So if you need to go, go. Because, you know, I wasn't going to be able to support myself independently here. So my dad pays my rent. I pay everything else. Nice. You know, and that's how I've been. And I am more than aware of that privilege. And I thank my stars every day that I can be here doing comedy, doing that. And right now the number one goal is like, get the fuck off my dad's payroll. Yeah. There you go. And eventually, like you said, have my entire payroll be funded by comedy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that's the ultimate goal.
I would love that.
That is the most free that they'll let you be, is doing something you like and then making enough money to keep the whole thing rolling. Yeah. Keep the whole machine
churning. I can stand on stage and go, I'm slow and gay, and people give me like $5,000 for that shit. Yeah. Oh my God, I would love that.
Even when you bomb, they're just like, here's a check. You're like, awesome.
I get to give this to my landlord. Yeah. Nice. Oh yeah. Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I can move to West Hollywood. Oh, dude. Yeah. That's king for a day. Yeah. King for a month.
I think
the check bounces, but hey.
Yeah. I think home, that resonates with a lot of people. Like the fear of like, I don't know. We grew up in a small town. I've never been to San Diego. Is it small there?
It's kind of like LA, where like you're in San Diego, but like there's different neighborhoods and stuff. I was in suburbia, so like it was a suburb. Yeah. But my graduating high school class, I was over 1,000. You know, it was
seriously.
Yeah, I went to a pretty big high school.
Dang.
It was like
1,000 people?
800 to how big was your graduating class?
It was
Little
like
Tennessee?
600.
Yeah, something like that. 500.
And that was
600.
big. That
Yeah.
was like a lot of
Yeah,
folks.
we were somewhere between 800 and 1,000.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah, Tennessee, where we grew up, was probably what you imagine Ohio is. It's
Oh yeah.
probably just imagine that same thing. A lot of lakes. It was beautiful there.
Oh, I bet.
But yeah, like a huge.
Very green, no fires.
Yeah. No homeless.
Yeah.
A huge driving point is, growing up in a small town, and after high school, a lot of people went away and then failed, or stayed and failed.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was fun for a little bit because you were 20, 21 out of high school, but then you were 22, 23,
And
Yeah.
and you're like, this isn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
And I noticed that so quickly because I took a huge L very early in my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
I went right out of high school. I moved to Chattanooga with like almost all my friends to go to community college, and I just dropped out in a year. Just did drugs, got arrested like 4 times or whatever, and I just took like a huge L right off the bat, and immediately I was like, oh, this can't be it,
Yeah.
and like turned my shit around and started doing like a lot of new shit, and stand up was one of them, and the fear of being there, and all my buddies are still there, and some of which still live with their parents, or like even if they have their own place, they just go to bars and just do nothing, and the fear of that's what drives me.
Yeah.
And some revenge.
Yeah.
So
A huge driving factor for me was when I was in high school, there was an improv team that I never got on because it was based on popularity and not talent. And when I had to be a freshman in college, my best friend from high school, I was down for the weekend or so, and he was like, hey, I've got buddies in the improv show where alumni come back. It's like the alumni show. They do it once a year. You want to come? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I went and I saw it, and I knew every single alumni because I had gone to school with every single one of them. They were either seniors when I were freshmen, or I graduated with them. And watching some of those people who I remember as a freshman looking up to as so funny, so smart, so quick, they could go off and do something, to watch them still be in my high school auditorium in that blue and white baseball improv tee, doing the same setups, the same little games, with the same people and the same drama teacher. I was like, if this were 4 years ago, I'd think you're so cool. But now that I'm here, like, living in, like, dude, I don't want to be you.
Yeah. We took a trip. When we moved to Los Angeles, it was like the biggest moment of our lives, whatever. And then we were here for a year, and then we took a trip back home a year after. And we had, in our lives out here, we had accomplished so much. Started stand-up, we made friends, like, we were in the club, doing, like, spots and whatever, and it was just amazing. And then we went back home, and nothing changed. Like, nothing changed. Yeah. And so we went back, like, I was, like, hanging out with my friends, and I felt I didn't know them. I was, like, I felt uncomfortable with my friends.
Yeah.
And, like you said, there was, a few of my friends who I looked up to, and, like, even their brothers and stuff who I looked up to, like, they had, like, DUIs and stuff, and they were, like, just working for their dad. It's like, like those conversations. What are you doing these days? Oh, well, the girlfriend got pregnant, so I'm just with my dad, working with him. And, just kind of I'm just at my parents, but I'm chilling. I'm just kind of chilling, I'm just really chilling right now.
I got a kid announcement via text like a few weeks ago. It's just it's just weird. It's not like you think you're gonna go back and you're like, oh, dude, we're gonna kick it. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And like it's still cool, at least with like the guys that I'm friends with back home. But it's like it's different knowing that like, hey, in a few days I'm gonna fly back out to Los Angeles and like start my life again here.
Yeah.
Start the machine churning again. It's different.
And it's crazy. Even the people who, like, I went to school with, who stayed in San Diego, got a full education, graduated, and have like a real career, even they haven't grown as much as people who have left San Diego. One of literally the only person from high school I still talk to, a very dear friend of mine, he went to Point Loma and he got a nursing degree. He's a nurse down in San Diego. We still text and stuff every now and then, but, he still has a lot of traits from high school that, I thought he would have grown out of, just because he was a very stubborn person, and I love him to death, and he's a very dear friend of mine. But like since leaving high school, like I got an autism diagnosis. I came out as a lesbian. I do stand up. I got a BFA in performing arts. You know, I've done so much, and I don't think I'm anything like who I was in high school. I look back at high school, I'm like, who the fuck is that bitch?
I do the same thing. I'm like, well,
and
who was that?
Talk to you, like, stay over there, like,
Yeah.
whoever you are, sit in your corner, like, don't come up to me, I'll donkey kick you. You know, I've grown so much, and it's just, you know, it's one of those where I never want to shit on your hometown, because some people just can't leave. Some people
That's
don't
true.
have the privilege and benefit of being able to leave, and you got to be able to acknowledge that. But at
Yeah.
the same time, it's like, if you can, even if it's for a year, even if it's just like an hour out, or like or 2 hours out.
Yeah, get out though.
Yeah.
You know, get out of there.
Because, like, let's be real. I'm maybe 2 hours away from where I grew up and went to high school. My high school's like an hour and a half away on a good night if I drive down there. But still, it's such a different culture.
It's worlds away.
LA may as well be a different planet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
From San Diego, man. It's so wild out here.
People don't realize how different people think San Diego's like Diet LA. No, it's its own animal. It's wild. It has its own culture that's really like interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, the fear drives me a lot. Fear and just, I don't know, I think wanting to prove myself, that drives me a lot. And I like stand up because it's just me up there. I don't know.
Yeah, I grew up in Nashville, being in like bands all the time. I had a couple bands, and what I really love about stand up is like there's no coordination necessary. It's like you don't have to be like, hey, can you be here at the dude, you forgot the amp.
Oh,
It's
dude,
like,
my car broke down.
Yeah. Oh, well then there's no show. It's like, hey, do you exist now? Okay, then let's come and do the show.
Yeah.
It's like it's that simple. That's it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Very
tracked with me my whole life as well. Is just everything I've loved doing it's just been me.
Yeah.
Because I don't like relying on other people.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up. First thing was skateboarding. Skateboarding is just me, dude. You know, skateboarding, riding bikes.
Oh yeah.
Eventually, that grew to motorcycles. Skydiving. It's just me. Stand up. It's just me.
I just wanted to go faster and faster.
I just wanted to
faster.
keep going
Oh, yeah.
faster, dude.
Yeah.
And I just don't need anyone else to eventually flake, which everyone always does.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I don't know. You think we're normal? Do you guys feel like normal people?
No.
No.
I feel like a
You're
freak.
asking the gay autistic woman if they feel normal.
I feel like a freak sometimes. I feel like I walk through life sometimes, and I'm like, I don't think I'm like alive.
Oh no, I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that to my bones.
Yeah, I'll be talking with people, and I'm like, are they weird or like am I weird?
I'm totally different. I got it all together. I'm good.
Oh wow.
You're like, everyone else is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone else is the problem.
I'm-
I'm perfect.
I'm perfect. Everything else sucks.
Yeah. The reason I'm upset is other people, not me.
That's right.
That's
I'm
the way
jealous.
I look at it.
It's your flaws, not mine.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm gonna make a drink.
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
You know what's funny about that is sometimes I have not trouble, but like sometimes
You got trouble.
I got trouble, folks.
I'm here in River City.
Oh my God! You know the song?
Oh, what?
I have a musical theater degree.
That's our favorite song.
That's like our
From
jam.
Music Man?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
You got
so
trouble, my
cute.
friend.
Down here in River City.
Well,
And
well-
then that Santa pool. That Santa do.
Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are unaware of the. I'm not going to do the whole thing. But know that I know we both know the whole thing.
The whole thing.
I believe
top to
you.
bottom.
We sing that all the time.
We did it once on the podcast.
Yeah, we did.
That's so great.
Right here in River City. You ever seen the Seth MacFarlane one where he did it at an award show?
Oh, he did it?
Yeah, Seth
Oh.
MacFarlane.
That's the best version
Yeah.
of it.
I
Yeah.
have not. I've only seen oh god, I saw Hugh Jackman do it because he just did it recently on Broadway. With
Hugh
Sutton.
Jackman did.
He's
Yeah,
doing it on
Music
Broadway
Man?
right now.
He's a huge
with
theater
Sutton
dude.
Foster,
Hugh
who
Jackman's
is
a stud.
Yo.
he's it's probably on YouTube. I saw it on YouTube. I saw little clips of it. He's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love Hugh, man.
He's doing really good. I don't like a lot of the older shows, you know, but when it comes to Rodgers and Hammerstein, I
Yeah.
mean, not only are they amazing, but Music Man's one of the few I really do like.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah.
Right here in River City. Yeah, we know
Teachers
the whole
always
thing.
wanted me to sing Marion, and they're like, "You could be a good Marion," and then they were like, maybe not." Because I grew up singing rock and roll, so I showed up to a musical theater school singing rock and roll, and people were like, "How about you do Carrie Pipperidge from Carousel?" Or like, you know, all these ingenues, and I'm like, no.
Ah, you got
See
trouble, folks.
Some stuck-up jockey boy sitting on damn patch. Oh, you got
Make your
trouble.
blood boil. Well, I should say. All right, we
No,
can.
friends, here's the thing about that. You can't do a single line of that without going into the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
That game
it's
with
so
the
good.
15 numbered balls is the devil's tool. Shit.
Where did we even start? How did we get here?
I don't
I
know.
forget.
I
I don't
like
know.
I like it where we ended up though.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
That's great.
What was I saying? Oh yeah. What's tough about Wednesday night Badger and Jam is it's always the same people. At this point, it's always the same people. It didn't
Yeah.
used to be that way, but we have created this little
It's at the
Wednesday
point-
night community.
At least
Yeah.
50% of the room is the same people because it's the three of us, it's Ryan Murphy, it's Ash Mehta, it's Tom Kelly, and then it's almost all
Casey, most of the times.
Casey's there a lot, Hayden Ezzy's there a lot, Rogers. Sasha hasn't been there lately.
That's
he moved
true.
back
That's
to
true.
Canada.
He used to be.
Roger's been
We
there
gotta
the
get
past
that guy
couple
back.
Wednesdays.
Yeah, Roger. And so it's tough. I know for a
John?
fact. Yeah.
You know,
For a fact, the last 5 times has been pretty much the same exact people.
With like 2 or 3 other.
Give or
yeah,
take 2
at
or
least
3.
half the
strangers.
room is the same every
And
time.
I'm like, hey, I can't write this much new shit, guys.
right?
Yeah.
So you're.
That's why I always try to go last so I can spend most of my time riffing because it's like I know I'm just gonna like I don't want to milk these guys with the same fucking jokes every
Yeah.
night.
Do you guys have trouble? Trouble, folks.
Trouble, folks.
I gotta avoid that word in front of you
We're just
two
gonna
now.
do that all night.
Yeah, you're in terrible, terrible trouble, Ryan.
I've been in terrible, terrible trouble on stage. Do you have trouble? I have trouble doing the same jokes in front of the same people. Like I cannot go up on Wednesday night Badger and Jam and be like, hey, I'm trying to quit smoking cigarettes. I can't do my smoke break joke.
Yeah.
They've heard it 8
your
times.
dolly bit.
Yeah, I
I
can't
do
be like,
love
I've been
that
helping
bit,
my
though.
buddy move. We've been using dollies.
That's why that's my favorite mic to try new shit.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
I'll just like throw something out there like spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Because the hardest part is like when you do a new joke at Badger and it like kills because it's new and they haven't heard it before and you're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna put this in my set. And then the next time you're at Badger, you do it again. And no matter whether it's the same people or different people, it never kills the second time you do it. For some reason, no matter
Yeah.
how good the joke is, the second time you do it, it always bombs. And then the third time it'll get good again. And then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, it was just the second time it always bombs.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, well, and then you have to sit in the purgatory of, well, do I just fuck this joke to hell or
Yeah.
do I keep going with it?
Yeah.
The first it works. It always works the first time because
Right?
you have there's some energy in you. This
Also,
this is the first time I'm doing it.
Also, all those guys that go to the Wednesday late night Badger and Jam, they want you to do well. So you'll say like
Yeah.
some half cocked like idea, and they'll be like, "Yeah, dude," and you're like, "Hell yeah, dude, this
Yeah.
bit kills." And then you'll
You'll
try
go to the
it.
Hollywood
Right?
comedy.
Yeah. You go to a different open mic, and you're like, "Yeah, dude,
Oh my
this
God.
bit," and then it's silence, and you're like, "Oh man."
That story of OJ bit, I did it the last mic. I pulled it out of my ass and it killed. And I've been thinking about it ever since I did it. But it's like, if I did that at Comedy Boulevard, I'm pretty sure the room would like not react in the same manner.
Yeah.
You know?
It's weird.
That's why that late night room is like so special. It's so supportive.
Yeah.
It gives you like a little bit more of a push. So like if you have some half cocked idea that you're like, I'm thinking about it, maybe not, whatever, and you do it there, and you get so much encouragement that you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do it over somewhere else, and it never goes as well.
Yeah.
But like you still get the reps in of trying to maybe you change it, maybe you add something to it, maybe it gets better, but it's like
Yeah.
it all starts in that one spot of encouragement.
And like I feel like the majority of the time, if you get a joke that really kills in that room, it's because you're like bantering off of someone else's joke.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just thrilled that their like joke was
Acknowledged.
that you felt like their joke was cool enough to like riff with.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
like
yeah.
isn't always the case, but feel that way if you need it,
Yeah.
Very that.
Yeah, no, it is nice. Go ahead.
I hate to cut you off. Don't you hate when people who can't riff like try to riff? I don't want to name names because we know people, but like there are some people who like get on stage and they're like, okay, I'm gonna riff off of other people's shit, and it's like you shouldn't do that even a little bit.
Yeah.
You're not qualified.
I'm not a great riffer.
But you're better than so many people we know. I can name like at least 3 or 4 people right now who you're better than. I'm not going to.
I like the one riff, like where you get on stage and you're like, hey everybody, and then you're like, oh, that was weird, well, we should have done this, and then I just go right into my shit.
Dude, one of the best riffs I ever had was I was following Casey, which is hard enough. Fantastic comic.
He's so
Which
great.
is hard enough. And I'll never forget this. I went up and my opening line was I was talking about how Casey looked like he got dress coded in middle school.
Yeah.
And he got like the biggest spot ever, dude.
The bit I did about Casey Skinner looks like the homosexual hired to play the skinhead in the gay skinhead porno.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Like, oh my god.
That's funny.
But those riffs only work because like everyone that goes to that mic is so like close knit.
Yeah.
You know?
I could never do my Tom Kelly impression outside of Badger and Jam.
No, because everyone there knows Tom Kelly.
Yeah,
Buddy.
even when Tom's not host, even if I go on a Luke night, I could pull out that Tom Kelly impression, and it kills every time. Especially if I'm doing Tom Kelly doing Nick Titoni. That's my favorite impression in the world.
Hey! It's a lot of yelling and pointing.
You know?
A lot of pointing with the hand.
And Nick doesn't talk like that even a little bit.
No.
See, that's the thing he does.
But you want him
Nick
to.
speaks very like eloquently, like an adult. You know, like my God, it's so funny.
Dude, also
I want Nick to talk like how Tom thinks Nick talks.
Nick talks.
But you know what's funny? He would never impersonate Luke Walls like, hey, don't ya know,
Yeah.
we got the maple in the house. Like, he would never say, like,
Also-
that's how Luke Walls
Also,
speaks.
number one riffer of all time, Luke Walsh.
Yeah, 100%.
Dude.
Luke and Nick Titoni are two people who, if you put
Titoni
them at the
crushes.
end,
Titoni crushes
he
with
can just walk on stage, not tell a single joke he wrote, just talk about everyone else's shit, and it's still the best set in the room.
I saw him go on at Badger one time, and we were like smoking cigarettes, like talking outside beforehand, and he was like, "Yeah, I got a show tomorrow. I'm just gonna like run some bits. I'm gonna get these ready for my show at Chateau, a real stage." And then he went up there and did a full like 6 minutes of just riffing on other people's material.
He does that every time. I love that about Nick Titoni. Every time I ever see him, he's like, I gotta rehearse these jokes for the shit I've got.
I really gotta get this
And then
down,
he gets on stage and he only talks about other people's stuff. And then at the end, he's like, shit, I had to rehearse tonight, but I guess I'm not. And it's like, well, whose fault is that, Nick? It's only yours.
His fault.
Love you to death, man.
Funny.
but-
He's a funny dude. He doesn't come around as much. I wish he would.
I know. I feel like I never see him.
I know. He needs to come around more.
Yeah.
I love that community we, sort of
so fun.
created there at Badger and Jam.
Also,
dude.
I love that we've like created this kind of like tradition, like treadmill thing, and like going down and hanging out at the store afterwards. Because everyone's done their mics for the night. They've been all around Hollywood. They've done all their sets, and it's like we just get to walk down there and have a good time, have a few drinks down at the store.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's a great routine. It's a great thing to like look forward to, you know? Even if you're having a rough week, it's like, I just gotta make it till Wednesday.
Yeah.
Because like once I laugh at Badger and go to the store and have some drinks, I mean, the last time we were at the store, that was the hardest I'd laughed in a long time when we found those stupid stickers on the table.
Yeah.
We were children.
Yeah, there was like
And when
100
I say
stickers
we,
on the
I
table.
mean me.
I got
I
stuck
was
on
a
my back.
child.
At one point, you had like 12 stickers on your back.
Yeah.
I was, oh God, that was the most fun I had in a while.
And then just imagine one day, because we always go there Wednesday night, and we just pretend to be like regulars at the store.
We're like LARPing as
Yeah.
And then
store
we'll
comics.
look and we'll see like, oh, there's Theo Vaughn and Bobby Lee. They're hanging out. Oh, that's so cool. One day that'll be us. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And 9 times
what I
out of
love.
10, Bobby Lee will stop by and like pat everyone on the back and
Yeah.
say, hi, how you doing? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, I've had
You
like
look
4
great.
encounters with Bobby
Oh,
Lee.
yeah.
Have we told you about how he got us into?
I think I've heard this once or twice. He got you into a room once.
Yeah,
That's right. He really helped us out.
He's so cool.
And I talked to Theo Vaughn just a couple weeks ago about like moving to Nashville.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm from there. I started there. Have you ever been to this place? And that was just cool.
Well, it's funny. I was the night we were there and with everyone was there that night, and then that woman.
Yeah.
Okay, that night. So that night, Earl Skater, who is like a big closer in the main room at the Comedy Store, he ended up finding this woman, and this woman was talking to him, and she pointed at me, and I was like, okay. So I walk over to her, and I didn't recognize Earl at first, and she got us into a conversation, and we started following each other, and it was one of those things where I got home and I was like, oh, I had like a 20-minute conversation with like a headliner at the Comedy Store, and he followed me back on Instagram.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Like, it's, like the one nice thing that fucking woman.
Yeah, the one nice thing that came out of that night.
Have you talked about her on the podcast? Did you talk about that night at all?
Not really.
That was so. I know we went off on her in Badger Jeff because I remember it was like you and then Nick went on, and then it was like me and then Ryan, and then the next guy came up and was like, what was this lady doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He was so confused.
Yeah, she was just making an ass of herself.
I think I still have her number in my phone.
Delete it.
Well, yeah, tell her never to come.
I
there
couldn't
again.
even tell you. I have so many random numbers in my phone. I couldn't even tell you. Like, what the fuck?
Uh-oh.
Are the nukes coming? Is that it?
Let me tell you how awful my father is. My father, I love my dad to
Here
death.
it
Hi,
goes.
Dad, I know you're watching this. My dad is such a white man with money. He's doing this like winemaking club with his wife because he's a wine guy.
Ah.
He's a big wine man, and he.
That sounds fun if he's interested in it.
Oh, very much. I love wine too, and
I
he's
don't like
got
wine.
me. He's got me, and I love it when I'm with my dad and he's buying me nice wine. But when I live alone, I go to Trader Joe's. So I don't love wine when I'm at home.
Yeah.
I only love wine at his home. But he texted me earlier. He's like, I got grape. We picked out our grapes for our wine for the winemaking class. And I was like, oh, I hope it's great. Hope it goes well.
Hope it's grape.
He just texted me, it won't be done until next spring. You're waiting a year for a bottle of alcohol with like a less than 15% alcohol content.
That's not worth it.
Leave me
Something like that, dude.
like you have to love the craft for that to be it.
I guess, man.
I couldn't even because
That's-
I know you guys have talked about it on the show in negative ways, and that's fine. I know a buddy who grows weed, and he'll wait a year or so for a plant to grow, and I'm like, no matter how much I personally love weed, I don't love it enough to grow it.
Yeah.
You shouldn't.
I don't even love it enough to acknowledge that it's real.
Oh, I've seen the podcast. I'm more than aware.
So, hey,
It was so funny scrolling through that podcast, waiting to hear you talk about me, and then coming across that bit and being like, oh my gosh, every time I'm around them, I'm only ever smoking. we literally were just smoking on the balcony.
Yeah, we have ripped pot smokers for 35 episodes. It's not
fair,
stopping now.
My entire experience with marijuana has been in Los Angeles, California. And I
Yeah.
bet if your first experience with marijuana came from backwoods Tennessee,
Yeah.
your impression of it is probably incredibly different than a white lady from Los Angeles.
Most importantly, it wasn't the weed that was the problem. It was the people who used it that was the problem.
It was the
In Tennessee.
It was the directionless. I can quit anytime I want.
I'm not addicted
has
to it.
Nothing going on. I'm not addicted to it.
Robbing people. It was a dark
Robbing people.
There was a dark weird scene in Tennessee when I was growing up.
I fully believe you.
A lot of losers who are still losers.
To be very fair, if I lived in Tennessee, I would probably also do nothing but smoke weed all day.
Yeah.
I can't necessarily blame them, but I hear you, and I bet living in it was rough. Because, I remember living in, Virginia Beach, Virginia for a while. I used to live in, North and Southern Virginia because I was a Navy kid. And, even...
Oh, yeah, your dad was a Navy guy. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh, we talked about it on the Sunset Heights podcast a
Ooh,
little
then
bit.
you can't talk about it here. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm just...
They're our rivals.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, in Virginia, even 6th graders who were smoking pot and shit,
Yeah.
it was we don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You know.
Also, it's just so fun ripping on potheads.
Yeah.
I smoked so much pot in high school.
Yeah.
Much pot.
Dude, from time to time, I'd smoke pot too, but it's like the second that you're like, dude, hey, pot's bad for you, they're like, no, it's not, dude. No, dude.
It's just fun ripping on pot.
Yeah, and they get so upset, and then like I get pleasure from them being mad.
Yeah, but then I'll have fucking 7 drinks a night.
Yeah,
and I'll
and
be
like-
like, I'm not an issue.
And then you're
smoke 10
smoking-
cigarettes.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like-
Oh, there was no. Oh my God, it was especially fun going to theater school and having people be like, you know, since you're a musical theater major, you really shouldn't smoke like joints and shit. You know, that's really not good. Like, you shouldn't own a bong. At least that's not good for you.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they're like, can I get a pack of American Spirits, please?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the most unfiltered,
Yeah.
like. Oh my! They're organic. They're healthy.
No, they're good for you, actually.
Guys, they're plant based. It's like you're smoking
they're
a tree
vegan
trunk. Like, come on.
or what the fuck ever.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's like
People who smoke American Spirits might as well just be as worse as people who smoke pot.
like honestly,
Because they're not. It's like, dude, smoke a cigarette or don't. Get a Lucky Strike non-filter and fucking smoke a
real.
cigarette, dude.
Yeah.
I think I've told you guys this. I put on one of my mom's old coats once, and I put my hand in the pocket because there was like a lump in the jacket for a while, but I could never find the pocket. And when I finally found it, I pulled out like a pack of Salem cigarettes from the 90s in like that emerald green foil wrapping, and there was still like 11 in there.
It's like asbestos laced.
Right? And I was like, Mom, even if you were going to smoke behind our backs, could you have at least picked like a quality like choice? Could you like, you had to smoke these old ass Salems?
Did you ever go through a time where you smoked cigarettes?
I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never had any interest in it.
You never smoked a cigarette?
Never at all. I've never had any interest. It's something, because honestly, I'm one of those people where, like, I don't want my dad to watch this. Sorry, Dad, I know you hate this. There are people in my family who have had issues with like getting hooked on things or like
Yeah, same.
yeah, you know, and it's just one of those things. And I'm the kind of person who gets hooked on things very easily. And it's one of those where I know for a fact, like, if I liked cigarettes, I wouldn't be able to stop.
Yeah.
And my mom was a smoker, and she was a smoker who could stop, and I would be a smoker who couldn't.
Yeah.
You know? And there was a time in high school where, because, like, right when I was a senior, not only was, it was a really weird time. So in California, for a while, you could buy cigarettes and tobacco products at 18, but then, like, right when I started college, or like right around the beginning of 2017, they bumped it up to 21.
It's 21 in Tennessee now.
They just did that, yeah.
Right
Yeah.
when Ian and Brennan turned 18,
Yeah.
So
they bumped it to 21.
yeah, I was the last group of 18-year-olds who got to buy tobacco products before we couldn't anymore. So I would buy like vapes and stuff. And when I used to buy like the vape pens, it was like back when it was the refillable goo, and I would buy it with like no nicotine.
What a shitty time in American history. When everyone had a vape the size of an iPhone and they were just like,
right?
whoa.
It was
Some
just, they were
people
like,
still do.
Yeah. Oh no, it's not.
And
It's good for you because it's not a cig.
Because
Yeah.
this is better than
Yeah.
a Lucky
Mine was
Strike.
never
And
that bad.
remember those fucking batteries? Like you'd take out the back and you'd click like 3 batteries into the thing.
Oh, it's as big
And
as
it'd
an
be like,
iPhone.
whoa! And a
Yeah,
huge
yeah.
cloud. You're like,
No, but this is definitely better.
no, but it's strawberry. It's strawberry, so it's not.
Hey,
For real.
it tastes like cheesecake, so it's like not
Oh, yeah.
bad.
Dude, that time in history, in between like the first vape coming out and then like the Juuls, like that whole weird. That weird, like, figuring out what a vape should be.
Yeah.
That time sucked.
Dude,
I
I
went to a fucking vape competition with some buddies once.
Yeah.
I didn't vape or whatever, but I went to this fucking, my buddies vaped, and they would do tricks and stuff. Oh, fuck. I'm so embarrassed saying this out loud.
Honestly, I used to be able to do like dragon rings and
Yeah,
stuff.
I could do
Dude.
I could do
I used
O's.
to be able to like sit. I used to sit in my room and like do like the splits and stuff. I was a loser.
I can always do O's, but that's about it. But like my buddies were like, it was like right when vape started becoming big.
Yep.
We went to this like vape competition, and it was in this warehouse. And like we walk in, and there was a group of people in a circle, like a fight was going on.
Yes.
And then 2 people would walk up. And they'd shake hands, and then someone would like walk through the door, and they'd be like, "Yo, shut the door! You're letting the draft in. The air
Yep.
needs to be still." So, and then they'd play music, and they'd be like, "Whoa!" And they do a backflip or whatever. And
the good ones would have like a laser light show going
Yeah.
on, so it'd
Yeah.
go through the smoke.
dumbest time in American history.
So-
God bless.
Oh my
I remember
god.
dude, the first time I ever figured out what a jewel was, I was at a I went down to Florida to see Foo Fighters with a
Nice.
with a very close friend of mine that will not be named. We don't name names here.
Yeah.
But we were down there, and I was like actively smoking a cigarette, and a lady came up to me and she was like, "Hey," and like incredible looking, like 10 out of 10. She was like, "Do you know what a jewel is?" And
Yeah.
I was just like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, it's like what you're doing, but like not as good." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she gave us like 4 free jewels.
Dang.
Yeah.
Jewels are expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was wild. I was like, dude, these are so dumb. Whatever. And then taking the Jeep back from
Yeah.
Florida back to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Just because we were in a car, we ripped all 4
Yeah.
of us. We were just ripping
It's
them
so-
the whole time, man.
It's so funny. Yeah, I had the same thing. I was like,
These-
jewels are so dumb.
These are so dumb. And then you're in a car and you're like,
Like,
And then you're like, these are so stupid,
Oh,
but your
yeah.
buddy has one, and you're like, can I hit that though? You mind if I hit that?
well,
Yeah.
I've never smoked jewels, but the weed I vape looks like a jewel.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's easy to fly with. So if you
Man.
break it down and
you
like
can
hide
fly with. Is that nicotine or is that weed?
I vape weed. That's
You
weed in
can
my
fly
vape.
with weed.
So there's different ways.
What does TSA have to say about that?
Well,
What's
first
that?
of all, in
Don't talk about
California,
this.
they don't care. They don't care. In LA, you can fly out of LA with weed. TSA in LAX will not nail
How
you
does
for
that
weed.
even work? Because
So there's 2 different ways I do it. First of all, I always fly with the cartridges, and how I
Okay.
do it is I get like a bag, and I put all my cords and chargers in it. My laptop charger, my phone charger, my headphones, all the cords, and then I'll put like 2 or 3 USBs, and then I'll break down like my thing. I'll put the battery and then a couple of pods.
Okay.
And usually TSA won't notice it because they'll perceive it as like USBs and stuff. And
Yeah.
normally
And
they-
SD cards.
And the pods they perceive as jewel pods because they look like jewel pods. And then 9 times out of 10, if I'm flying with edibles, what I'll do is I'll pick like a gummy kind of edible, and then you go to like those touristy candy stores where you can do the bag of like mix in all your favorites, and then you know how you can pick like the gummy eggs and then like sour straws, and you put it all in that stupid bag like at Disney World
Yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
No, every time I'm at an airport, I'm drinking strictly.
Yeah.
I don't know what the candy is.
Yeah, like at the candy store.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I've done that before.
So you get one of those, and then you put the edibles in it. You mix it up because people don't think about that at TSA. There's
Yeah.
people tourist all the time, and especially if you're going out of LAX, like they're gonna expect you to have that kind of a bag from like Disney World or Universal or something.
Yeah.
So if you sneak edibles in that way, you sneak pods in that way. I've never flown with like flour, like actual like weed nuggets, because I don't have the balls to do that.
Nuggets is a funny word. Sorry.
I know it's
So hold on. So if you went on a flight from like LAX to like Tennessee, weed is illegal in Tennessee.
yeah. You have
No,
to be
I don't
sneaky
think
with that
anymore.
shit.
Is it still?
Is it? I don't do that.
Well, so well, I'll tell you what. I shouldn't. When I usually fly, if I'm flying, I'm almost always flying to Ohio to see my grandfather and to go back to my dad's home and all that stuff. And when I'm flying to Ohio, 9 times out of 10, my layover is in Texas, where weed is heavily illegal. You know, but I'm already through security. And the dogs you see in the airport are not there to sniff out drugs. They're there to sniff out firearms and bombs.
Yeah.
So having the edibles and the
And
weed.
Israeli people.
Yeah, unfortunately. So unless I'm stupid enough to just like crack it open in the middle of like the smoking section and be like, I'm just gonna smoke some weed here
Yeah.
in Texas.
Yeah.
You know, they're not gonna know I have it. And then when I go to Ohio, it's like medical only. But again, there's 12 people in Ohio. If someone smells me smoking it, you know,
Yeah.
who the fuck cares? No one's gonna care.
man, that's awful ballsy, dude.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's that white privilege.
Yeah, there you go. I remember in 2019 I took a 2-week trip out to Europe, and I went to like Berlin, Prague, Vienna, Rome, and Budapest, but their airports are weird because like smoke like the whole hey you guys shouldn't smoke never caught on over there
Oh,
in like that part of
no.
Europe. So in their airports they have these rooms with like these giant like vacuum like ceilings.
There's one at the National Airport too.
They tore it down.
Did they?
Yes. It's not
Shit.
there anymore. I know because I went back for a buddy of mine's wedding last year. It's not there.
I could-
But
It was there when I worked there.
But it's commonplace.
I think Cleveland still has one in their airport.
Good.
Probably, but it's like you think it's cool. You're waiting for your airplane. You're like, oh, awesome! I get to go smoke a cigarette. And
Yeah.
then you go into this like sliding door room, and it's just a bunch of other people with yellow fingernails, and you're just like,
Yeah.
You get halfway through your cigarette, and you're like,
Yeah.
it turns sad
You walk
so
up,
quick.
You walk up to the wall and you go like this.
Yeah,
and there's
yeah.
like a line.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, dude.
Yeah, and I thought I was like, I'm getting a very European experience. And
Yeah.
then it's just
You're like, no, I'm just
Very
a
bad.
piece
you're
of
like,
shit.
yeah, this is just very, very sad.
Well,
And-
Terrible.
so you said you were in Vienna. I was also in Vienna when I went to Europe for a little bit. I
love
loved
Vienna.
I loved Vienna. I
It's
loved
my-
So was I. I went
Austria.
there a bunch.
Vienna was my favorite stop
never been
on
there.
that on my 2 weeks in Europe.
Freaking gorgeous, my God! But did you see? You had to have seen it because you were there. The cigarettes in at least Austria, and I think also in Germany. And when I was there, I don't think they were on them in France. They have the pictures
Of
on them
the fucked up
of the
like,
cancer,
yeah,
of the
and the
mouth,
chin.
and the throat, and
Yeah.
the chin, and the lungs.
Yeah.
They fully print pictures
You-
of
yeah.
cancer on packs of cigarettes, and they're like, if
you
you
wanna
want to
know-
smoke, you can, but look.
You wanna know what's fucked up? I saw that and I was like, give me the cigarettes.
Yeah.
I
I gotta
was like,
bring these back home.
Yeah,
I
come
gotta
on,
show
come
this to
on,
my buddies.
come on.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fucking buzzing.
Dude, they put in all that work and I was still like, yeah, I'll take 2 packs. Come on.
It's the same thing.
Oh my God.
No, dude, it like Vienna and Prague were like my 2 favorite cities. It was my first time going. It was my first time out of the United States.
Oh yeah.
Prague. Prague was like out of like a Lord of the Rings movie. It was so
Oh.
old and crazy. Their streets were like crazy and like curved and everything was just so old. And then I got a
Beautiful.
coffee at a Starbucks and felt like shit. And but it like
How dare you?
yeah, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vienna and Prague are like my 2 probably favorite cities.
Vienna
in
was
Europe.
gorgeous. When I went, it was like right before I went to college. We did 2 weeks, and we did Paris, France. We did Bonn, France. Then we did Munich. We did Salzburg. We did another Austrian city. We did Vienna, and then we flew to Berlin, and did like the last like 4 or 5 days in Berlin.
Jesus.
Berlin's pretty cool.
But
I got in trouble. I actually got in. This is a true story. I've told this on stage. I got in trouble I got in like big trouble. You got trouble.
I got a Berlin trouble story.
You got trouble, folks.
I had
right here in Berlin City.
I had trouble, folks, in Berlin City. This is a true story. I had just toured the Holocaust Memorial by it's like a block from Brandenburg. You know what the blocks?
Yep.
Yeah.
I was there. I got a story about that place.
So I just finished the tour and it was mesmerizing, mind melt. It was a very cool experience. And then I was sitting outside and I lit up a cigarette. I got halfway through the cigarette and one of the museum's this is a true story.
Yeah.
One of the museum's janitors came up to me and was like shouting at me in German. He's like, no smoke, whatever. I can't speak German, whatever.
Yeah.
And got super mad at me. And I put the cigarette out and put it in a trash can. I was like, fine. And I kind of get why he was upset.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you shouldn't be smoking there.
yeah.
Absolutely. But the comic takeaway from that was that, like, you don't want the janitor cleaning up ash outside of the Holocaust Memorial. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Very
That's
bad.
bad.
That's a bad look.
That
you
brings
know?
them back, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, I want to make it clear. I went to Europe like right before I turned 19 years old. I was a child. I was dumb. This was stupid.
Now you're smart and an adult, right?
Absolutely.
There you go.
I went to Europe and I was like, look, I'm going to remember this trip forever. This will be a part of me forever, but I want to be a part of it. And I would like to leave my DNA in as many places as I'd like. So I was determined to lick every monument I could get my mouth on.
What the fuck?
I'm not even making... No, you can judge me all you want. You're right. But hey, I've never gotten coronavirus, and I think that might be why. I licked the Eiffel Tower. I'm not afraid. If germs haven't killed me yet, they're not going to. I'm supernatural. I have to be.
You know how long that's been there? You licked it?
Yeah, I did. I licked the Louvre. I licked the Notre Dame. The only monument I did not lick that I wanted to.
Are you serious?
Was the Berlin Wall.
Oh my God.
And I'll tell you why. Because if you go to the Berlin Wall, there's no part of the Berlin Wall that you can actually get up to and touch. The entire Berlin Wall is like behind a barrier. There's security around it all the time. There's always cops looking at it with guns. And I'm like, if I try to stick my face on this thing, they're going to shoot me in the back of the head. And while that would be somewhat comical, there's a way funnier way to die. So I'm going to hold off for now.
Do you think
There's a piece of the Berlin Wall at the Reagan Museum.
Yeah,
you can just go there and lick
do you think they heard you were coming and they were like, let's get the troops and the guns, let's go. We saw her lick the Eiffel Tower. We can't have this lady licking this wall.
Someone at Disneyland Paris was like, some bitch just licked the castle. If you see her in Berlin, just like, no.
Oh, man.
That's why you were licking the walls at the Comedy Store the other night. That's why. That all makes sense now. I was so confused. I was like, why is she licking everything?
Yeah.
Oh, it's because that's what you do when you're at an iconic place.
Yeah.
I guess.
You have to leave a little piece of yourself behind.
Maybe not, though. Actually, maybe not, though. I don't know.
Well, this is another thing you'll love. So when I was in France, I did the Normandy tour of like D-Day and like Normandy Beach.
Yeah.
And we did the museum, and then we were at Normandy Beach where the whole shit like went down. And I was standing there and I was like, I know so many people who would think this is so cool. And I didn't buy a single souvenir at that gift shop for any friend I had. And I looked down at
You shouldn't buy the souvenir at the fucking Normandy Beach gift shop.
Here's what I did. I looked down at my checkered slip-on Vans. I took them off and I started filling them with sand. And I went back to my hotel. I did this. I went back to my hotel and I cleaned out like a couple of like jam jars we had from breakfast and I filled them with the sand and I brought them back to America.
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, thank you. I was like, this is sand from Normandy Beach where people got shot. Like D-Day, this is where it happened.
Yeah.
And like every guy friend I had who I handed that to was like, that's really sick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thanks. It cost me literally nothing.
That's
except
free sand.
dirty feet. Yeah.
That's fucking awesome.
And then they took us to the cemetery where they're all buried, like all the people who died that day. And
Did you dig up the dirt?
No,
and put it
but
in your
I
shoes?
I
Did you
picked
put
like
bones in your shoes when you...
just took a random soldier
Yeah,
home
yeah,
with
yeah.
me, like,
This is a nice
You're my
skull. There you
friend
go.
now.
You just picked up a fucking headstone and put it in your pants and walked away.
Some Scooby-Doo shit.
I picked out like some random headstone because I was like, these people are probably lonely. Like no one's talking to them, and
What,
I felt
the dead?
Yeah, because like who's visiting these?
No, they have all the other dead people.
Who's visiting them? I don't know anyone. So I like sat in front of someone and just like talked to them because I was like, I don't know who comes to visit you, but like I'll be your friend. Like I have like weird things with. I put too many emotions.
I did that
into
one time.
things.
I did that one time.
I do that anytime I'm at a cemetery. I always feel bad, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone comes to visit you, but just in case no one does, someone has visited you.
Yeah.
Feel like someone cares. And I always feel like I have to leave something. And I don't remember if it was a ring or like a charm off the bracelet I used to wear, but I left like a piece of like jewelry at his like grave. And I was like, there you go, friend. And his name was Larry. I took a picture of his tombstone. And I remember it was like the one Jewish tombstone in a sea of like Christian crosses. And I was like, the one Jewish guy is named
And you were like,
Larry.
he gets it. He gets it.
I was like, you fought for our country, Larry. Here's a memento.
That's so funny.
Larry the D-Day guy, dude.
Larry, if you can hear this, I miss you, man.
I
You were
did that
cool.
one time back in Tennessee. I was just having a weird day. I just went to a cemetery because you're allowed to just go there. Isn't that
yeah.
nuts?
Yeah.
No one's gonna stop you.
No, there's no gates at a cemetery. You're just allowed to
Just
go.
meander on in and just, hey, dead people, what's
and
up?
if you're walking past the stones and stuff, no one
just
assumes.
do a tight five for the corpses.
Yeah. Just do my fucking.
What else?
What's
Yeah.
the deal with airline food? Am
Yeah.
I right?
No one, if you're walking through the stones and stuff, no one comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, do you know someone who's dead here?" No one talks to you.
Right?
One time, I just went to a cemetery and I just started like walking around and I was just like looking at the headstones and I was like, "What's up?" You know, just like talking. I was weird. It was
Yeah.
stupid, but yeah, I did
I
that
don't
once.
think so. Well, I mean, so in DC, I used to live in DC. There's
We used to go to DC a lot.
Yeah.
Our
You got
our-
something right here.
Oh, do I?
Other eye.
Oh,
I love DC.
there we go. Yeah.
If I would ever leave LA, that I would go back to DC.
We had an uncle.
Very much.
Our father's sister used to be married to this guy. We're not going to name names.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool guy. Very cool dude.
Full bird colonel.
Solid to this day. We took a tour of the Pentagon.
Yeah.
With him, but we would go to.
Dad
Arlington.
used to work there.
Oh, for real?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dad worked
Oh, that's
there
true. Yeah, we
on
knew that.
9/11.
Oh,
Dad
yeah.
was there on 9/11.
So we saw the missile, right?
He watched the plane go into the fucking building.
Into the Pentagon?
Literally, so he was up in a building on the hill, because the Pentagon's a whole, you've been there, it's a whole
Yeah.
city.
Yeah.
So he was at the building on top of the hill by the freeway, and they were literally briefing him on what was going on in Manhattan. They were like, the planes have hit the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
There's two more in the air unaccounted for. We don't know where they're going. We're believing they're both heading here, but we don't know for what. And all of a sudden, the building started to shake and the floor rumbled, and everyone ran like hell out the
Holy
building.
shit.
And
Yeah.
as my dad ran out the doors, he watched with his human eyeballs the nose and the whole plane going.
So he saw it was a plane?
Yeah, he watched it happen, and
you go,
everyone
Hayden.
started running down the hill.
There you go,
mad
Hayden.
out of hell. I felt so bad. His job during 9/11 was like recording who lived, who they found, who they
Holy
didn't,
cow.
who we got a call, like, hey, so sorry, rest in peace.
Man.
He was a very busy man during that time.
Jesus.
I remember I was 3 years old, and I remember that day very vividly.
Did you ever go to the Pentagon?
Oh yeah. Oh, I remember being a toddler in my car seat, driving down the freeway past it and looking at the hole.
Yeah.
In the I've done this bit on stage. That's not a joke. I do remember being like a 3-year-old and being like, "Who the fuck put that there?"
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I don't remember that. And then, I remember that day being like, why is Dad not home? And my mom's like, it's a late night at work. I'm like, you're not telling me something. She's
Yeah.
like, you're right.
Yeah, I'm not telling you about 9/11. You'll know later.
But I remember being like, we came home and she turned on the TV and she was desperately trying to find something that wasn't 9/11. And of course, every channel's 9/11.
It was like Blue's Clues. Was like,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the
Yeah,
one thing that was
SpongeBob's like, fuck this, it's 9/11.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing those images on the
A
TV.
plane has hit the Krusty Krab.
Oh, they do an episode on it. Patrick, how are we gonna?
Yeah.
Plankton's editing.
Well, I don't know. Dude.
Not to like kind of change the subject, not really. Legoland in San Diego has like a little recreation of Manhattan.
Oh, for real?
And it was built before 9/11, so it was built with the Twin Towers.
Out of Legos.
And I've always wanted to go to Legoland and ask, like, how did you handle 9/11? How did you take the towers down?
Dude, that was one of our favorite. We took a trip out here when we were real little kids, and we went to Legoland,
Yeah.
California.
That's the
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, dude.
I have fond memories of Legoland.
Yeah, the
Hell
dragon
yeah.
roller coaster.
The dragon coaster.
we
with
grew
the-
up like building Legos and shit.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a picture at someone, dad somewhere, or mom has a picture of a little like 6-year-old me outside of Legoland, California.
Yeah,
Oh god,
Yeah,
it's
I'm
the
in
best.
a really weird green striped shirt.
that's
It was
weird.
a fun.
That's a weird. What a weird shirt to be in.
Yeah.
That's cool. How many times do you think you've been to the Pentagon?
Oh god, I couldn't even give you a number.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, we need to know exactly.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so-
Hold on. Because
I mean-
I've been one time, and I was too young to understand like what I was getting into, but I remember I don't remember anything before or after, but I remember like pulling up to this building and like our uncle is in like the whole get up and whatever, and he's like passing clearance and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should remember this later. I did for some reason. I remember it all.
I got my my camera snatched.
Yeah.
I remember I had one of those, those disposable cameras
yeah.
with the flash. I took a picture. I think it was either myself or my mother. I forget which one, but like one of us took a picture of like a weird hallway, and then a dude came up and was like, "No, you can't," and they just walked away with it. Like
Yeah.
like it's forever his. You know.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's probably in a box still in there somewhere.
Hey, it's being dealt with by top men.
Top men.
Oh yeah.
Top men.
Top men. That's a
I gotta say at least 10 times, if not more.
Wow.
You know, whether it was like a bring your kid to work day or just like, you know, showing up for some reason. I was there, you know, a good amount. Because obviously I had clearance. I was 10 years old and like the daughter of like a commander.
Yeah.
So like they didn't care. Like, you know, what am I gonna do?
I stole a little, I think it was like a little pen from the gift shop.
They're knocking on the door right
know.
now. Hey, open up!
Come in.
Helicopters.
I stole something from the Pentagon. I really did.
No, you stole from the gift shop, dog.
Yeah.
Another gift shop.
Inside the Pentagon. Weird brag, I know, but
Yeah.
it's funny. Yeah, it's funny those moments that you know, for whatever reason, your brain goes, this is important, and you don't know why yet, but you should remember this, and not like you'll just like dump memories from shit that didn't matter.
Yeah. Oh, so when I was a kid, we moved a lot, obviously, because we were in the Navy, and we would move across the country, and we would see like certain sites and stuff, and I didn't remember all of them.
Yeah.
But one of the few things I remember to this day was, I think, oh God, it had to be Montgomery, Alabama. If I got that wrong, I'm so sorry. But it was like the hotel where Martin Luther King got shot.
I never been there.
I think that was. Yeah.
Wasn't it in Alabama?
I don't know.
Maybe in Memphis. I don't know.
I could
Oh
not tell
no,
you.
I think it was.
It was somewhere down there.
It was somewhere in the South, but we drove through there because it's a whole museum now. Like the building where it happened, the building across the street where the shooter was, and there's a whole building next door that's like a civil rights museum, and they have inside like the actual bus that Rosa Parks sat on, and like all of these things, and like we walked through the room that was Martin Luther King Jr.'s room, like
How'd
when
they
he
find
got
the-
assassinated.
How'd they find the bus?
I don't know.
That's nuts.
I really don't
Guys,
know.
It's not the bus.
It's probably just a bus.
It's just a
and
bus.
who knows?
Yeah.
But it
But
was
anyway.
It was one of those things where it was like at the time I was like a kid and I was
Yeah.
like, I've heard about this, but like it's history. But now as like an adult, I'm like, that was really cool. Like
Yeah.
I'm really glad I got to see that at some point in my life.
It's so nuts, those weird moments. I remember the first time I ever saw the White House in person.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't comprehend like what that building means and represents.
Oh yeah.
But like I was told, like my dad was like, "So this is the White House.
Oh yeah.
We're about to see it. It's like super important." And I was like, I just totally got it. And I was like, okay, I get it. And then I saw it and I was like, wow, I remember the first time I ever saw that place, the Pentagon, of course,
What I gotta know what monuments, what
Smithsonian.
Yes, which ones?
What's the other pointy one in DC?
That's
the
the Washington
Washington
Monument.
That's right. I remember.
That's across from the Lincoln.
That's right.
Have you?
Yes.
Lincoln's
We've
great.
been there.
Jefferson's a good one.
Yep, we've been to all those places.
Yeah. Oh God, I love them.
The
I see them every time I go back. I
Oh,
love
fuck,
them to
hold on.
death.
Space Museum.
no.
Air and
yes,
Space
yes,
is great.
yes. That's we've
Air
been
and
there a few
Space,
times.
natural history, and then the American history, like the pop culture history.
The Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Yeah.
I love the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I know a guy buried in Arlington.
Yeah?
When I was in the 4th grade, I went to school with a kid named Hunter Jutras. He is not watching this. We haven't spoken in over a decade. But
I'm actually good buddies with him, so he is watching that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
you low-key kind of look like him. But I remember, because when I was in the 4th grade, it was like during the height of the Iraq War. He had his father and brother in the service, and his mom worked for the school, and she got a call one day at school that they found a body, last name Jutras, but they didn't know who it was.
Man.
And she was like praying it was her husband, and they found out it was her son,
Man.
who was like 20-something. I don't think he was even married yet, but he had a girlfriend, a partner who had just had a baby, who had never met him, never had the chance to meet him.
Damn.
And he is buried in Arlington, and every time I get to go back home to Arlington, I always take time to. He never knew me, I never met him, but the fact that I like somewhat have like a degree of knowing a person there is like huge to me.
We've been there maybe three times. I think we've been there.
We go like every
3 times.
other Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
Huge.
I did a book report in middle school about the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Nerd.
Dude. And and it was super fascinating. That place, those guards, watching them just
the
walk.
changing of the
Yeah,
guards?
the changing. We watched it all.
It's
Did you ever
fantastic.
see like a couple of years ago? There was like that mad hurricane that came through DC, like the Upper East Coast, And then they were just,
And they were still there.
And they were like, you guys can come in. They were like, nah.
Yeah.
No,
No.
we're still going to do this.
They were just walking and pouring like cold rain, fucking blowing them over. It was
Like,
nuts.
If you think military people in like the South or like in general are intense, see like military people in like Washington
Yeah.
D.C. They might not necessarily be the most conservative, but they take the military shit the most serious.
Yeah, they
like,
do.
yeah, those guys aren't gonna move. They ooh my goodness, no, they're not. And it's incredible, you know.
My favorite part was the Air and Space Museum. For
Yeah.
sure. I remember the first time
Love it.
I ever saw Chuck Yeager's Bell X1 hanging in the entrance of the Air and Space Museum.
First time I ever saw an SR-71 Blackbird.
They had
Yep.
they had the original first two stages of the Saturn V boosters in there. And you have to walk through it.
Nuts.
Yeah, very cool.
It's an incredible one. I love that one. I love natural history with the Hope Diamond, all the bones, and then the American history has the Star Spangled Banner in it, the first original American
The
flag.
Betsy Ross one.
Betsy Ross,
Yeah.
you know, the ruby slippers, all that's in there. There's some great shit in DC.
Yeah,
I
DC
love
really
DC.
is. It's really beautiful.
DC rocks.
Oh yeah.
It's a nice community of people.
Yeah, very much so, especially in the spring with the cherry blossoms.
Yeah,
All
it's
that.
super nice. Not a big stand up.
No,
scene.
it's not. You know, it's one of those where when I
Chappelle
was
started there, or not started, but he has a big presence there.
Yeah, you know, I go back and forth because, like, if I was still pursuing theater, I would feel very comfortable going back to DC because it does have a good theater scene.
Yeah.
And you're 5 hours outside of Manhattan. But when it comes to stand-up, like, you're never gonna like have like a steady stand-up career in DC unless you're taking that 5-hour train to Manhattan every other week.
That's what's so weird. That I've always found. It's like there's two places to do stand up, New York and LA.
Or Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago maybe.
Chicago, well,
Maybe.
I think Chicago's a really. I mean, how many? Literally everyone who's ever been on SNL. I mean, I would say at least 80% of the people who've been on SNL came out of Chicago, Second City.
Santino came out of.
Yeah.
Chicago, yeah.
Chicago's, you know, maybe not for stand-up, but for comedy in general, it is a big comedy city.
Yeah.
And lately, Atlanta's been coming up in...
Really?
Atlanta and Austin. Austin, Texas, because think
Yeah.
about it. Kill Tony.
Yeah.
Think about how many comedians are going out to Austin, Texas right now.
Yeah, Ron White, Rogan, and Segura,
Oh, yeah.
and
I love Ron White.
Hinchcliffe, and all those guys below them.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's
It's
going
coming
out to
up.
Austin right now. That's really going to be the next big one is Austin. I think
I see
Austin's
it.
going to blow up
As long as Joe's there.
I think Kill Tony being there is doing a lot for the comedy scene in that city.
I think it'll be all right. We were talking about earlier out in the patio, like moving out to LA.
Yeah.
And like and just having that like dream of like doing stand up in LA. Like that's I've heard a lot of people being like that's gone, that's like of days past. Like I don't think that's going anywhere really. And like look, sure, like Austin it'll be its own thing, you know, sure, but it's like look, Austin doesn't have the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New York does. New York has the Cellar. Chicago doesn't have, you know, like the Hollywood Improv. Like they don't have these staple venues.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I mean Chicago's got Second City, but it's
Yeah.
something where it was funny. I was talking to a comedian we know, Ash Mehta, about this, and he was talking about the comedy scene in New York, and he was like, you know, I've heard so many comedians prefer New York because people aren't as sensitive, and, you know, I think that's why a lot of people are going out to Austin because they don't want to be, like, censored and stuff, because, like,
Yeah.
you know, when Chappelle comes out to LA and does, you know, his bits on trans women, he does not get the reaction he does in Ohio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where if you do specific kinds of comedy, it's going to register with specific kinds of crowds.
Yeah.
And if you want to be the kind of comedian who registers with everybody, that requires a specific kind of comedy. And we just are living in a time where you can't necessarily go up and say anything and everything and have everyone be cool with it, which is like why I think so many people go to Austin and why I think so many people are currently saying like the LA dream is dead, because people like Chappelle can't show up and just say anything and everything. And we've got a buddy, Luke Walls, you know, he can't just walk into any club in LA.
Oh
Yeah.
no, but he's the crux of that whole idea of
Yeah.
like dude, LA comedy isn't like going anywhere.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because a guy like that exists. Like Brian and I talk a lot about like how the pandemic like ringed out a bunch of people out of LA, and so the people that are left, they're they're still really about it. And he's a great example of that.
And it was one of those things where we were talking about like comedic safe spaces, where like certain jokes aren't allowed and certain topics aren't allowed. And so many comedians have so many opinions, and it might be shocking. I'm all for them. Yeah. Just for the sake of like, if it keeps these people over here happy and these people over here happy, why are, if all of these people who are really, really against joking about specific topics and using specific words have clubs where they can go to and laugh and do sets and not have to worry about that, if it keeps them from going into clubs where people are going to do that and, causing fights, let's encourage it all we want.
Sure,
let's keep it up. But I think there's a lot of places like, Austin. I highly doubt there's a comedy club in Austin where you can walk in and not hear at least one or two transphobic jokes.
Yeah, totally.
But there's many, many places in LA where you can walk in and be guaranteed you're not going to hear it. And then there's some places where you walk in and you might. There's some places you can walk in and it is guaranteed. It just depends on who's on the roster and where you know to go.
Yeah, Luke, I don't know. I don't know if he wants me to share that. Never mind. Sorry. There are some mics here in Los Angeles where
he knows not to go.
Yes, that's right. That's right. He said it perfectly.
And that's what I really respect about Luke Walls. When Luke Walls finds a club his comedy doesn't work with, he doesn't take it as like, oh, these people are little bitches who need to mask up. It's they have their kind of comedy, I have mine. Not everybody blends, that's fine. I've learned my lesson. I'm going to stay where I know I'm welcome.
We were talking to him just last night. We went to a mic together, and he was like, yeah, I went to this mic before, and there was like
2 buckets.
There was like 2 buckets. It's like one bucket, you put your name in one bucket, and it's like, this is a straight white men bucket. This bucket is like culture, like gay or trans bucket, and then this bucket is like black trans women bucket, and then we'll draw from each buckets, and I don't know. It's weird.
And again, it's like for the people who feel comfortable in those spaces and want to joke, because sometimes, look, as a queer, autistic person, every now and then those spaces are nice because I don't want to have to deal with listening to white men talk about things I think are dumb.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm a person who wants to go to the Comedy Store, and there are people at the Comedy Store who are trans, who are all these sorts of things, who do comedy beyond this sort of Silver Lake I call it Silver Lake censorship.
That's fucking perfect.
Because it's Silver Lake stand-up open mics. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's those stepping on eggshells, people.
Yeah, and again, if you're happy there, be happy there. And it's not to say people there will never find success, because I do think there's an audience and a crowd for that. But I think it is small. And I think if you want to have a place where you go to the Comedy Store, that's not necessarily where you want to spend the majority of your time. At least.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, dude, if you want to like be a big hitter, if you want to get into the clubs, like, almost nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
Nothing is all, and like you need to learn to kind of like, live with that.
I think there's definitely a way to like be big and like not go into because like look at people like Jim Gaffigan. Gaffigan's
he killed.
huge.
One of our favorite. We love Nate Bargatze, dude. He's got like some of the cleanest fans of all time.
Oh yeah.
And Brian Regan.
Regan.
Yeah, it's one of those.
How many times can you joke about pasta and like still sell out Red Rocks? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, think of John Panette. John Panette only ever did jokes about his size and food. He never did like dirty, like inappropriate. He never.
I think those are most of my jokes too. Are just sort of not like jokes that everyone could get on board with, just sort of my weird observations.
Yeah, I've never heard you do anything like crude or anything that could be deemed as like controversial humor.
Yeah. I think I stick to my wheelhouse, I think.
Yeah, there's certain, it's one of those things where certain kinds of comedy can work in any room, but not everybody wants to be that comedian. As amazing as he is, most white guys trying to do comedy right now don't want to be Jim Gaffigan.
Yeah.
They want to be Jimmy Carr.
Yeah.
And not every room likes Jimmy Carr.
Yeah.
And if you don't accept that with your chest, like a grown man, you're not going to make it far without throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. That's why I like Luke so much. Because
exactly.
That's something I could never do. That's just not who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I think he's so fucking funny, and he's so great at what he does.
Some rooms are yours, and some rooms aren't. And that's fine.
Yeah.
We can't. I think as comedians, when we get like super offended that our shit doesn't work in every single room, it's like, now you're just being dumb.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect to walk into like Podunk, Tennessee, and have my shit rock
Yeah,
the way it does
yeah.
here in LA.
I've told the story before. The worst I ever bombed. Ryan and I accidentally walked into like a woman's only mic one time.
Yeah.
And like I think my first joke was about like throwing up so hard that you have a nosebleed or like something about that.
Did you do that blue hair, armpit hair joke? Like,
No,
should
no,
women
that-
have the right to vote?
That was before I came up with that gym. Okay. No, but I ate so much shit and on the ride.
Horrible set.
Yeah, horrible. And on the ride home, I was just like, look, that was all me.
You didn't
Well,
adjust.
it's-
You didn't adjust.
I didn't adjust.
I at
all.
least adjusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I threw out all my jokes. I was like, my jokes aren't going to work. I'm just going to tell a weird, funny story.
Well, not to rat you out. There was a joke you told recently. You've told it twice, and then you never told it again. And I thought it was one of those jokes where the first time I ever heard it, I was like, I feel bad because this would rock in Tennessee. And it was that joke about, have you seen that car commercial with the paraplegic? How many people actually know someone in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
And apparently every time I've ever heard you tell that joke, the entire room is like, I know someone in a wheelchair.
Yep.
And you're like, well, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you're in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You're in one of
Yeah.
the most diverse cities in the world. Of course, everyone knows someone in a wheelchair.
Yep. Yeah.
Good bit,
But if
though.
you were back in Nashville,
Yeah.
you'd probably only get 2 people in the room.
Yeah,
and
I-
that joke would probably smash.
I build on that promptly. I abandoned that swiftly.
Because it had good
It's a-
perspective,
it
just
is a
not
good-
for here.
No, yeah. It is a good joke, though, because every commercial you see now, like you'll see a car. Basically, I'm just going to say the joke. Basically, you see a car commercial, and it's a black woman driving the car, and then a Korean man in the
Yeah.
passenger seat,
Yeah.
and then a quadriplegic in the back seat, and then a Mexican woman in the other seat. And it's like, oh, we're all friends and hanging out. It's like, no, you're not.
Which is, and that's funny because in Los Angeles, that is what a car of people looks
Yeah,
like. But
yeah,
back
yeah.
in Tennessee, it's not.
Yeah, but also it's like selling a car to a guy in a wheelchair. Like who are you trying? You know what I mean?
you know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Look, that
It needs some work. It needs
Yeah,
some
it
work.
needs.
Sometimes they
maybe
just wanna
that's
feel
shelved forever.
included.
Yeah. We'll see.
It needs
We'll
some
see
work
about
for
that.
sure.
Yeah. I was on a
You ever go back home to a mic?
Yeah.
Whip
hey,
it back out.
Hey, maybe.
They'd kill in Tennessee. Everyone in Tennessee would be like, no more than 2 people fit in my single cab truck. The fuck? It's me and my dog, man. That's it.
If they're in a wheelchair, I gotta rig them up in the back.
Yeah.
Gotta tie them up real good and
I
just
just
hold
don't-
on tight.
I just throw it in the toolbox.
It goes my F-150, my jet ski, and then my
I take out my
paraplegic
hook
friend.
bungees and just tie them up real tight with the dog in the back.
That's right.
There you
And go real slow on them turns so they don't fly out. Last time Aunt Jemima, she flew out the back. It was a real bad time.
You ever been to Tennessee?
If I have,
You got a good accent.
yes, I've been to, what in the gosh darn hell is it called? It's,
Memphis, Nashville.
That's a very old
No,
Tennessee wife
it's-
answer. Gosh darn, like avoiding
Oh,
swearing.
God darn it.
Oh, golly gee darn it.
it's not,
Dang nabbit.
it's outside of,
Gatlinburg.
Gatlinburg. That's where I was. My dad had
Smoky Mountains.
Yes, my dad had a friend who had an apartment in Gatlinburg, so we spent a few days in Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, and I loved it.
Oh, I've been there so many times. I
It
have so many
was
great memories.
Gorgeous.
In Pigeon Forge.
I've still never been to Dollywood. I'm dying to go to Dollywood, but like the Smoky Mountains, Gatlinburg's one of those places I'd go back there in a
Yeah.
heartbeat for a weekend.
Yeah, we had
Especially
so many,
now that I can drink.
Yeah, seriously. I'd go up there. I had so many memories, like with buddies going up there during the winter. I went up there with a girlfriend once, and we, just getting like a cabin, having like a hot tub outside, like hitting the museums, going to like get a good steak. You go to Smith and Sons, you get a fucking steak.
Barbecue.
My buddies and I got a cabin with a hot tub one time.
Yeah.
And it was like all the guys and like all the girls going up there. And
Yeah.
dude who just like smoke cigars inside, just get fucking shit.
Yeah, in this
yeah.
cabin you don't own in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
woods.
yeah.
Oh, just get obliterated,
Yeah.
wake
Oh my
up,
God.
go to a diner. It's
The
amazing.
apartment we were in backed up to the creek.
Yeah.
This like gorgeous creek. So you'd just open the window and you'd hear the water running at like late at night, and you'd just fall asleep to it. And you'd like every now and then you'd go out and you'd like see a bear.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, God, it was gorgeous. And then it's great because it's that long strip with like the shops and the restaurants and like the
And the
gimmicky shit.
aquarium.
Yeah.
I didn't get to go to. Oh wait, no. Yes, the Ripley's Believe It or Not.
Yeah, that too.
I loved that aquarium.
Where it's like upside down.
Well,
And then you have all those awful T-shirts. It's like, I went to Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
It's like printed on.
But Ripley, at least when I went there, Ripley, believe it or not, owns the aquarium in
I think they
Gatlinburg.
do, yeah.
Yeah, I love an aquarium. I'm too autistic for aquariums. I love aquariums. I am so annoying at aquariums.
What does that mean? You're so annoying at aquariums.
Oh my god! I went with my dad recently to the one down in San Diego, and I am that person who, like, if I know anything about this animal, I'm gonna tell you everything I know. So we'd walk up to a tank and be like, this kind of octopus lives in this part of the ocean, and it can do this and that and this and that and this and that, and this one, and it can do this, and then that one can do that, and it's, you know.
And the people are like, hey, come on, let's go to the next thing here. Let's get out of here.
Is that any different than us at the Peterson Museum? You know?
Yeah, we're like, oh, this car, no, it has the top speed of 273.
Yeah, the Arabian Sheik used to own this one.
Yeah, you know, the tires they use are specialty design carbon thing.
And every museum I go to, if the octopus is out, it is my best friend. It will immediately find me and look at me, and we'll just stare at each other for like 10 mintes. And my dad is like, let's move on. I'm like, no, we're connecting.
Damn.
We're having a conversation, you know?
Is this with animals only, or?
Yeah. Well, it's like the stereotype that autistic people are amazing with animals because people are terrible, which I fully agree with.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it's hysterical. Like almost every time I'm at a zoo or an aquarium, if an animal looks me in the eye, we're just gonna hang out for like 5 minutes looking at each other, or like, you know, doing whatever.
See, I have that same feeling when I see like an old Jag, like an old XJ V12, dude. I'm like, we have a connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this thing's not alive, but I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go to an airplane museum and I'll see like an old DC-3 and I'll be like, he knows.
He knows
what's up. You and me, we're chilling. I don't know.
All right, well, y'all, you want to do email?
I'm gonna make one more drink here.
Sure.
It's still going. Leave it going.
Yeah, this is still going. Is that still going?
It's still going.
All right, you got battery?
Hello.
Yeah, we're still going, folks.
All right, let's
Hello.
go. Folks. Right here in River City.
Well, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not yet wish to acknowledge, or you are unaware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in your community. Well, you got trouble, my friends. Right here, I say trouble right here in River City. Well, sure, I'm a pool player. Certainly mighty proud to say. I'm always mighty proud to say it. I consider that the hours I spend with a cue in my hand are gold. All right.
Come on, all right.
I know it, though.
You had some questions.
I have some questions, sure. All right. How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right.
Good.
Doing great.
Question number 1.
You ever see some stuck-up jockey boy
Sitting on damn patch makes your blood boil, well, I should say. Now, friends, let me tell you. All right. You don't even know it.
I don't know it.
At least pretends like she knows it.
5, 6 pockets in a table.
Pockets that mark the difference.
Between a gentleman
Just
and a
because
bum.
I know the song doesn't mean I know the words.
All right, this is all cut.
All right.
Oh, never.
Okay. Y'all shut the fuck up.
I know all you folks.
Hold on.
Parents. all right.
Let's get this back on the rails here.
Yeah.
Okay. I have just a few questions.
Let's go for it.
Elise, what's your proudest accomplishment?
Oh, God.
Big sigh.
Good answer. Hayden, what's your...
Is being alive too dark of an answer?
Yeah. No, that's not too dark of an answer.
I mean, if we're being so real.
We like to be real here on this pod.
Like, honestly, yeah. Like, it's one of those things where when I look at my life from high school, not to, like, get so dark, make a hard left, but, like, my mom died, like, a week into junior year of high school.
Yeah.
So the fact that I, like, went to college and graduated college and am now in LA attempting a career in the performing arts, which is something I dreamed of since I was, like, 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Like, that's big to me. Even though I'm not, like... You know, even in all of the places where I feel like I'm falling behind.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You know, it's one of those where I always try to think of, like, if 10-year-old me, like, truly did have the power to see me now, which I always wanted to, like, even though I don't feel proud of me all the time, they would be, like, so psyched to see me in LA, writing and doing stand-up, and having a group of comedians who invite me to like do podcasts and shows and book me for
Hey.
shit. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, man.
Cheers.
Hell
Cheers.
yeah. Hayden, what's your proudest? What would you say your proudest accomplishment is?
Oh man, making it into work this morning. That was rough.
Clocking in at that job. That's
Yeah,
my.
no. I know, but honestly, like something along the same lines as Elise. Like, I remember vividly, like, in my apartment back in Nashville, and wanting to come out here and do comedy and everything, and I was just outside like a couple hours ago, waiting for you to come over, and I was watching the sun go down next to the Netflix building. I saw the palm trees, and there was like the moon there, and I was like, dude, this was like my laptop background 4 years ago. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to be out here doing this, and I remember one of the biggest things that I was talking to Ryan about before we moved out here. I was like, I can't wait till it becomes like normal, until we get into like the open mic scene and basically describing what has happened now.
We envisioned and dreamed like what we're doing now before it was even a thing.
Yeah, and
Now
now
we're
that
doing it.
and now that it's happened, I'm like still mad, all the time.
That doesn't go away.
and angry. So like that doesn't go away.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I'm glad that that we set like a goal. We set a point in the future. We were like, hey, we would love to do this in the backdrop of like an unprecedented, once in 100-year pandemic. We moved out here in the craziest of circumstances, and through all that, it still ended up being like,
Yeah.
like what we actually wanted to go do, what I actually wanted to go do.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm most proud of now. And
What's your proudest accomplishment?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically like setting up this kind of platform for like making a future out of what moving out to LA did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And part of that's like, making friends out here and going to these weird open mics and
Yeah.
getting scolded for leaving early and bombing, and it's like it's all part of that, it's all part of the same thing that was like this one weird plan that we hatched after like 2 weeks of doing stand up at Third Coast back in Nashville.
Yeah.
That's what I'd say would be my proudest accomplishment. Was having a plan, planning for it, executing it, and then being on the other end of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
What about you, man?
Yeah.
Mine's kind of the same thing. Mine's longer. I have a little bit of a longer answer. But I think
You're on a path of vengeance, though. You're on a different road than the rest of us. You're on a path of revenge, dog.
not fully, but a little bit. I feel like I have a lot to prove to myself and a lot of other people I grew up with. I think my proudest accomplishment was digging myself out of that loser hole I was in.
Walk everybody through that, by the way, because you did have a loser hole, if you'd like to.
We'd be here for like 2 more hours if I went down that
Okay,
hole.
all right. It's a very impressive story, and
I was a big piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and look,
She's like, I know, I can see it in your
I
face.
mean, we've all had phases, but
Yeah.
I've from what I've heard so far.
Yeah, I used to be a big piece of
You've
shit.
quite
as a
one.
brother and a friend, I'm very excited how far you have
Yeah.
have come from there.
I don't know. I don't know. I had a weird friend group growing up. I was a piece of shit, just fucking loser, and that's like a 4 or 5 year story, and it ends with me moving here and going up at the Comedy Store. So I think that the going up at the Comedy Store might be my proudest achievement so far, is because that's sort of the end of like a whole long thing, like almost even my whole life ended and began with me going up at the Comedy Store. And so I would in a short answer, I'd say that.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Well, lady and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I think that was a lot of fun.
This has been so fun.
Such a fun time.
I'll come back anytime.
Yeah.
Make sure to email us bombingpodcast.
At gmail.com. What's your Instagram?
At Babadook, like 2 K's, 2 E's. I have a show coming up
Duke
at
like Dookie.
North End, North End Comedy, or North Hollywood Comedy. Shay Friedman, Ugly Baby Comedy, Tuesday, October 4th. It's free. It's my birthday. Please be there.
There you
I
go.
love
We'll
it so
be there.
much. I bet you will.
That's right. Hayden, Instagram.
I'm Hayden Wyckoff. You guys know that. I'm on Instagram, and people, every time I post a story, it's always like a bunch of thirst-strapped chicks saying they're gonna milk me dry.
I saw those, yeah. I have those too. All those
Yeah.
watch me, all
Yeah.
crazy things.
Yeah, right? All those Instagram
watch
women.
My pussy come
Yeah.
twice.
Yeah, all those weird fake accounts
I
that I
fucking
totally
wish.
don't follow back.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally.
Yeah, no.
No, how deplorable.
I don't.
No.
Yeah, no.
Anyway.
Follow me at Eminem. That's my Instagram.
Yeah.
At Ryan Jennings. That's my Instagram.
Guys, this
I
has
shave
been-
my head. I feel good about it.
Yeah.
This has been fun.
You look fine. Guys, this has been Bombing, episode 36, with your special guest, Elise. Thank you so much for
job.
watching.
Thank you.
Also, thank you so much for coming. We will see you guys next week.
Absolutely.
Let's get out of here.
Woohoo!
Mhm.
Oh, man.